Okay, I think it's recording. Bridget, tell
Well,
us about the project.
sounds good. So the project is coming out of the Dreamers Resource Center. I'm the current graduate programming assistant. So my position there is to kind of create content for our undocumented community on campus, especially for like our undocumented students, where they may not see the faces of like our undocumented like community that is actually like out there thriving and creating career paths and creating like all this content for us that it may not necessarily be highlighted. And I think that's like my aim for this, where it's let's put a face to like where our undocumented community is out there and is making like these new pathways for us to become like more successful and actually like put a face to it, because I think that's very important. Like if we are uplifting each other, like we're not easily like put in the background. We're going to be visible where they're trying to make us invisible, and it kind of just puts our perspective out there as well.
Mm,
Yeah,
that's
so
amazing. That's amazing.
gracias. So we're excited on behalf of, Cal State LA, the Chicano Studies, Chicana, Latina Studies Department, and also the Dreamer Resource Center. Like we're really just honored and excited to have, this plática with you and to have your time and energy. I personally am inspired by you. I love all of the work that you're doing. I love the just the idea that your work is continuing to grow and develop, and so we're excited to just hear, your own perspective. Bridget has a few questions, and I'll just follow up with questions. We don't need to go for a very long time. I think there's 4 questions on her list, and we can, just do follow up questions as we go along.
Okay.
Mhm. Go ahead, Bridget.
Hola, Armando. So I think one of my first questions is, how do you identify? And that can go beyond like, hey, I'm queer, or hey, I'm undocumented. It's more of these like ideas of like, we're much more than that. And so I don't know how you would like to answer that.
Uh, well, hi, my name is Armando Ibañez, and I am an undocumented Latinx filmmaker. And even though, yes, I identify as an undocumented immigrant, a queer identity, I mostly every time I speak about myself, I always speak about me being a human being, because I feel like um, undocumented immigrants, the price that they pay for pursuing a better life is giving away somehow giving away their humanity, accepting that they're gonna start feeling less than and that they don't deserve anything. So for me, with all the work that I do, I identify myself as human being, and I identify all of my people as human beings. I reclaim my humanity, and by that I mean being allowed to do and say all the things that everyone it's doing, but people expect a certain standards, behaviors from undocumented immigrants, and I don't think that's correct or should be allowed. And that's why with my work, which is storytelling and documenting through camera and visual art, it's I want to reclaim that my identity as a human being.
All right, gracias. Um, so I think one of my other questions is, so what motivates you? What motivated you to create the content, the show? And I think what still motivates you?
What motivates me about my work, I think, as someone who grew up in Mexico in poverty, as especially in Guerrero, Oaxaca, Chiapas are some of the states that are more, I would say, oppressed and forgotten from Mexico society, from the government. I feel like you grew up uh, just learning how to survive. So to come all the way to become an artist, to become a filmmaker, a screenwriter, it's a whole process that took more than 30 years. Why? Because like mainstream media, the government, society norms give you a mindset thinking that you don't deserve anything, that you cannot grow up, and also like the systems of oppression, right? Like you have everything against. So for me, I grew up witnessing all type of injustices, including like the educational system in Mexico, which is against poor people. Like the system in Mexico is designed in a way for poor people to quit school, not to become better, but to quit school. And I, because of that, we eventually immigrated to the United States because we were living in extreme poverty, and coming to the US, to El Norte, is very normalized in Guerrero, in Oaxaca. No, not a lot of people do it because it takes a lot. You gotta find a sponsor, money, opportunity, but it's normalized. Like that is the dream of everyone where I grew up, coming to El Norte. Once I came here and I started questioning things, and realizing that that we give away our humanity by pursuing a better life, and thinking that it's okay, thinking that, oh, I broke the law and I I shouldn't be asking for anything. Getting, I feel like taking, how do you say, like deconstructing that idea and getting rid of that idea, of that mentality. It is the best thing that can happen, that could happen to me. Why? Because like that, I feel like I started embracing my queer identity, my undocumented identity, but mostly to understand that everything that I think of, everything that goes through my mind, especially my feelings, my emotions, there is nothing wrong with that. So saying that, having said that, being for the first time after, like I came out when I was 30 years. So after I came out as 30 years, I learned about the undocumented movement, undocumented and unafraid movement. And I realized that many of these amazing pioneers identify as queer, trans, bi. And so for the very first time, I feel like I belong somewhere. I belong somewhere in the undocumented queer community where my family. I never had mentors before. I never had role models, role examples until I was 30 years old when I met these amazing, unapologetically people. And they tell me that, like it's never too late, because in my mind, during all of my 20s, I felt like I was gonna live in the closet. In my mind, I was gonna get married, I was gonna have children, married to a girl, and I was never gonna tell anyone that I was undocumented. So I felt like I was just gonna die like that. I had accepted that, but then I discovered a new world that made me question everything about me, about society, about everything in general. And since then, I felt like I felt for the very first time alive. And because of that, I started like questioning, what if I go to school? What if I pursue my goals? And I feel like I always loved films. Since I was a kid, I grew up watching films about Pedro Infante, Maria Felix, and I always loved film. I know there was something different about me, because instead of like playing on the streets with all the other kids, I just wanted to be watching TV, watching films. That's all I wanted to be doing. So once I started pursuing college, I got accepted in college, I decided that I wanted to pursue filmmaking as a major. It took me a lot, because I feel like in our circle here, when I was sharing that I was going to pursue filmmaking, like people didn't believe in me. I did get the support from, my family and friends, but some other people, like, they just were not as supportive. Why? Because we are conditioned again to thinking that filmmaking, the arts, is not for us. we had to survive. Like, don't pick art, don't do filming, like you're wasting your time. So once also I was struggling with like, okay, I'm undocumented. How am I gonna like survive once I graduate? Like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to apply for a job because like I'm undocumented. Uh, so I decided that I want to start creating the content for me, for my people. I decided that I wanted to create the stories that I wanted to see myself represented on, and that's how I came out with the idea of Undocumented Tales. Um, there were a lot of role models that I had in my way to finally say, okay, this is what I want to do. I watching the work of Lin-Manuel Miranda in the Heights, Broadway musical, Issa Rae's web series, the Aqua Black Girl, Aurora Guerrero Mosquita y Mari, Julio Salgado, Visual Art. All of these artists shape me and form me in a way for me to start questioning, what if? What if I can do this? I can create my own art. I have the power. I feel like one of the biggest problems with us, many people who are doubting, is that we feel like we don't have the power. We feel and we see at someone who's creating something that like they're special and we're not. But I feel like we all have the power to create whatever we want. And I feel like for me, I was like, wow, I wish I could be like them. I wish I could create art like them. I feel like we had to question and challenge ourselves to step out of our comfort zones. And it's very, very intimidating, scary. Like, we don't have a lot of role models because everything has been represented by white people, right? We're stepping into so many new stages, new worlds, that everything is intimidating. So for me, starting my own content, I feel like I did have a few role models, mentors. They didn't know they were my mentors, but me watching their art, their work, encouraged me to create my own art. And that's how I started writing a web series called Undocumented Tales, about the life of an undocumented queer Mexican server who's 30 years old, who has an accent, who's insecure, shy, trying to find himself, and is everything that Hollywood would have never made. Uh, Everything that Hollywood would have never made. And I feel like that encouraged me a lot more. And also the response from a certain community that started watching the series. They started sending messages and saying, wow, like that is scene, or this is scene, like I went through that, that is me. And that made me understand the power of representation. Representation means that we have to tell our people that our lives are important, that our lives matter. And I feel like the undocumented queer community needs that, like right now. So for me, this series is my contribution to humanize our people, to represent our people, and to educate general audiences about our experiences, and to let them know there is a lot more than what just stream media is showing from our communities.
Awesome. I actually wanted to follow up with a question about I would love to know more about your family and also about your queer community. Like, I know you've mentioned a few of them, but I wonder if you could share stories, or a story about your queer community and your family, and how both of those impacted, because you know they both show up in Undocumented Tales. So I wonder how, if you could tell us personal experience about your family and about your queer community and how that impacted you.
You know, I feel like living in the closet produces a lot of anxiety, right? And a couple of days ago, I was thinking about all the anxiety that I went through my whole 30 years. In all of my 20s, when I barely started, like, okay, what if, like, I don't know, I start, like discovering, experiencing. It's not like you think about it. You just like, it's an impulse, like you go to a party and then you find this boy and there's this vibe. And then you're like, the next day you're like, what the fuck happened? Like, oh my God, I feel so guilty. I shouldn't be doing this. And then you just like little by little start experiencing, right? There's no rules, there's no book. Like there's like, you're scared, you're shy, you're confused, you don't have no one to talk to because you're in the closet. I feel like for me, it's living two lives. It's living two lives of like not talking to someone. I felt very lonely because my family is very religious. And then little by little, I started like, okay, making friends, making a queer friend, a gay friend, and then like having these close moments, trying to find and bond with this new community, but also still living those double lives, you know. Like when I had social media, I remember I had Facebook, and it was like, oh, I only have a Facebook for my friends and a Facebook for my family. And it's like, for me, it's like all of my late 20s and beginning of 30s, I had a lot of anxiety of like trying to discover and trying to like figuring out what is it, what do I want, where do I go, like all of this, it's so confusing, right? Even like I remember, and it's all undocumented tales, I had a lot of anxiety because like my mom always wanted to celebrate my birthday, always wanted to make a carne asada. And by that time, I mean, every year. But then what happens when you're like 28, 29, and you already start bonding with like queer people, and you start separating a little bit from all of your straight best friends, and you're bonding a little bit more with your queer friends because you're finding your place, you're finding your voice. But then what happens when that carne asada birthday celebration comes, and you're having these thoughts, these guilty thoughts. And I remember like me, there was a time where like I didn't invite my gay friends, you know, I didn't invite my gay friends to my birthday because I didn't want my mom to suspect anything, right? That was very hard for me because I felt guilty. I felt fake. I felt like I was being very, very fake and not loyal to the people, to these new people who were offering me other than nothing else than love to me, right? So for me, there was also like a lot of frustration, anger, not knowing how to deal with that, not knowing how to deal with the frustration. And it took a lot. It took probably a few more birthdays, you know, and little by little, what I love about my process is that I discover my process, mine and my family, and me coming out to my mom. I discovered the progress through my birthdays, you know, from like having my birthdays very feeling lonely to like, okay, what is going on? I don't want my birthday to come. I don't want to celebrate my birthday. To like, I'm gay, I'm queer. To like, we won't have any more celebrations. To like, we'll have celebrations, but I'm inviting my friends. There was a point when I told my mom, like, I don't want to have a birthday. And if you want to celebrate it, I'm going to invite all of my friends, everyone. And up until that point, I mean, she didn't say like, invite everyone. Um, Up until that point, I feel like my last birthday, which it was like 2 years ago, last year we didn't have a celebration. 2 years ago, it looked like gay pride. Like my house was like gay pride, full of like queer people, twerking, drinking. Like it was
I
just like,
love that. That's so awesome.
yeah. I think that's a good thing that maybe I should put up with documented tales. I'm brainstorming about it, but I think that's how we can see the process, you know, of that is based on me, that is based on my experiences of how me from hating celebrating my birthday, because when you celebrate your birthday, you're supposed to have the best day of the year, right? Like it's a special moment. For me, it was the opposite. It was anxiety, it was guilt, it was everything, and I just didn't want my birthday to come. So that was definitely an experience that I do want to put in a storytelling. I saw the episode from Lena White, Master of None. Lena White, she wrote an episode. In the episode, she wrote about the Thanksgiving since she was a little girl, and she's growing up, and how she comes out to her mom, and then she brings a girl. The mom is against it, and at the end, the episode is narrated by every Thanksgiving. So at the end of the Thanksgiving is similar to what I went through to my last birthday. Like the mom is okay now. And that's a beautiful episode. I recommend it to everyone. You're gonna cry a lot, so watch it.
Which one is it? What series is it?
It's called Master of None.
Uh-huh.
And it's I think it's season 2, episode 6, 7. The episode is called Thanksgiving, and you can watch the episode alone. Like you don't have to watch any other episodes, just that.
Awesome.
And it's just beautiful. It's beautiful.
All right, thanks for the recommendation. Actually, before we move on to the other question, what other series do you recommend? I know you always recommend Insecure, and even starting with Black Awkward Girl, which I did this quarantine.
I saw.
But what else? What other series would you recommend that are out there right now that represent the things that you really like to kind of focus on?
You know, I definitely recommend always that episode of Thanksgiving from Master of None, and always recommend Awkward Black Girl. I did, I did really talk. You know, it's funny how um, the other day I was listening to a podcast that I did like 2 years ago, and I feel like I identify more with series or movies that talk about poverty than queer identity. And they in the podcast they asked me like, "Oh, what are your favorite series?" And I started recommending, and I realized that all of the series and movies that I talk about poverty, and none of them include queer characters. And I was like, that is so interesting. Like, why is that? I don't know. I'm sure someone must have the answer. And I was thinking like maybe because I went through a like really extreme poverty when I was a kid. But definitely I always recommend those series and TV shows about people of color, you know, like I think that the movies from Pedro Infante, Nosotros los Pobres and Ustedes los Ricos, it's 2 movies that I always recommend. The movie about Central Station from Brazil, that's a beautiful, beautiful movie. Talks about resiliency, poverty in Brazil. And another movie that I really love, it's Cinema Paradiso from Italy. Cinema Paradiso, and that will encourage people to follow their dreams, to follow their goals, and also like to make sure that sometimes we have many of the movies that I really love is about like trying to face your past. Mm-hmm. You know, many of us, especially when it comes like people of color, you know, underrepresented communities, like we come from a lot of trauma. We experience a lot of trauma growing up, right? So that movie, or like Pedro Almodovar's movies, every single movie of Pedro Almodovar, the characters are haunted by the past. Every single movie. The movie about Almodovar is, every movie about Almodovar is about the past, about the character not wanting to face the past. And I feel like I'm really curious about that because like me, in my personal experience, is like, we're always like trying to avoid the past. We're always trying to like, I'm gonna forget, even though we don't forget. We had to face, we had to heal. That is the word, we had to heal. So I feel like every single movie of Almodovar, including La Mala Educación and Volver, I've been watching those 2 in the last 2 weeks. And those 2 are beautiful movies. But mostly I feel like movies about healing. And all the movies about Almodovar are about healing, are about like, you know, I come from somewhere where I felt like I never wanted to go back. And now here I am. Like, because the past is always coming back until you face it and until you heal. So the movies from Almodovar, like, I recommend that, those movies, definitely.
Yeah, that makes total sense when you say that you like these movies either about poverty or about like healing. I think that's what attracts me to the Undocumented Tales, is that it's not a pure comedy, right? There's a lot of drama. I'm actually more attracted to drama myself, and I think it's because I always really want to resonate and feel what other people are feeling. Like if I've experienced a lot of pain and struggle, I resonate when I see that on the screen. And I also resonate when we see like the joy in spite of the struggle, right? And I think that's that whole concept of UndocuJoy that Yosimar has been talking about, but that many of you through your work, like you epitomize that, right? How you both enjoy your life, you triumph, and you heal in the face of so much dehumanization and so much struggle. So I can see exactly what you're saying, that your series like really complicates both trauma and struggle with joy, fun, silliness, and love. And I think that's really powerful. And I think it makes it different than most series. Like most series are either strictly drama or strictly comedy. Very few do that balance. So I think you do that beautifully.
Yeah, and I feel like that's, if there's a message that I really want the people who are watching this video to stay with, is that sometimes we have to find ways to, you know, to heal, to cope with, especially during these times. Last year, I was going through like really harsh times, especially during I want to share this so people can understand. Last year, I was shooting Undocumented Tales Season 3, and I was going through really personal problems, big problems. I feel like I just couldn't. I feel like giving up. And the worst is like, how can you continue working when your life, your personal life is just like chaos, right? I talked to a therapist, and the therapist was asking me like, hey, so how do you cope? Like, how do you find ways to cope during these times? And I said, there's no ways. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't have any ways to cope with this. And my therapist said, well, I think there is a way. I think you've been coping for a couple years, and the way for you to cope with this is undocumented tales. Like, you being coping through your art. And when my therapist said that, I was like speechless. I have nothing. I was like, oh my God, that is so true. Like, so my message here is like, write it, let it out. You know, don't be scared. Don't be scared to let your feelings, whatever you want to talk about. Like, when I write, there's something in me that goes away. When I put those writings on the screen, it's healing. It's magic happens. I don't know how to describe it, but something in me, there's a way that I take away from me when I put anything that I want to write about on the screen. And I feel like that's magical. And yes, Undocumented Tales and more projects that I've been working on have been my way to cope, to heal, therapy. So forever who wants to feel like, find your ways to cope. There are ways and resources that we can create ourselves.
That's powerful. Thank you. Bridget, do you want to ask the next question?
Yeah, I think that's like a perfect segue, because I know that during your filming, you have hired and still continue to hire a lot of undocumented folks. I know one of them was my coworker's brother. What's his name? Giovanni Benitez. I know you hired him, and like he was a big part of like the filming crew. So I think like creating these relationships to like heal our students is very important. So I think my question is like, what advice do you have for our undocumented students on campus? Especially when it comes to pursuing these degrees of like either our families or our like society like don't understand as well, whether it be film, whether it be in the arts or anything of that sort.
You know, the hardest lesson that I have learned, the hardest lessons that I've taken is to finally accept that sometimes I'm looking for answers and I have questions and people don't have the answers. Like, no one has the answer. Like, there's no book written especially for me. So for me to understand that it made me grow, and it made me accept that, you know, life is scary. Professional life, adult life, it's very scary, because that means that I have to take decisions that maybe no one else have taken them. And it might be very intimidating and scary, and I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if that decision is going to be good or bad. So I feel like we always want to grab onto something, like, you know, like, okay, I'm about to graduate. Oh my God, I'm about to start this project. I'm on a job interview. Like, I want to like grab into something and tell me that everything's going to be okay. And unfortunately, it's not like, it's not like that. So for me to understand that I got to take my own decisions and I got to own it was the hardest decision for me. But now it's easier to make, you know, to take this road and to create and to continue working. So for me, is that the advice that I want to give students, especially undocumented students, queer community, is that we have to force ourselves and somehow to step out of our comfort zones, because whatever we take, it's going to be for us, not for others. So we have to look out for ourselves. Yes, there are, you know, like there are organizations, there are people, there are community, but depending on your experience, on your life, on your identity, sometimes people are not going to have answers, and you have to take your own decisions. And don't be scared. Don't be scared of failure. That is something that we all have to understand. Don't be scared of failure. Like, we're all scared of failure, but you know, like, just be grateful to be alive. I always try to find the positive side. Like right now during this pandemic, like here I am trying to find the positive side of everything. I am alive. You know, like, I might not have money or this or that or that, or my family or friends, but here I am, like, pushing myself, you know, pushing myself, because unfortunately the mental health, it's very important. So taking care of your mental health, it's very important, because like, if you take a decision based on not taking care of your mental health, you know, that decision might take you to something bad that might repercute in everything around your life. So this is why it's very important. Mental health, mental health, mental health. Talk to people. Don't give up, and try to challenge yourself to find answers. You know, like whatever you're going through, just don't give up.
Thank
Gracias.
you.
Anita, do you want to follow up with a question?
No, I think you should ask the last question if you're okay with that.
Yeah. So I think we're all very excited that you're creating another season. I very much look forward to it. So my question is, what do you have in store for us for season 4?
Oh my God, I am excited. I'm very, very excited, because I feel like season 4, we're gonna finally see what everyone's waiting to see from Fernando. I feel like Fernando, my character, is finally gonna learn to love himself. And that's all I'm gonna say. I don't wanna give you specific examples, but I don't think he loves himself. I think he's trying to find himself, find his voice. He's a little still confused. But season 4, we're gonna see. I'm very excited for people to see what Fernando is gonna become. One, and second, one thing that I really wanna give a big spoiler is that no more boyfriends. He's gonna be single. He's gonna be enjoying his life. Well, he's gonna be enjoying his life even though he doesn't know that. So I'm just excited about it. I'm excited to see this new phase in Fernando's life. So I can't wait. But for that, you know, we're gonna see a lot more. Hopefully, I can shoot 6-8 episodes, and then I'm just excited for this new phase of Fernando loving himself, and that's very interesting because everyone can have different definitions. So for me, Fernando loving himself is like knowing that he might be okay being single, you know, like, so I'm excited for people to see how he's gonna get there. How he's gonna get there. That's
awesome. I love that.
Yes.
All right, pues muchas gracias. I don't know if Anita has one last question or just last comments.
I don't have any more questions except that I think you're brilliant. You're a wonderful actor, a wonderful writer. You're very inspiring, and I really just send you so much love, and let us know how we can support you. In fact, if there's anything that we can do to support you during this time, like let us and the audience know. Maybe you can tell folks where to find you on social media and how to offer donations if they're interested in offering you donations.
Well, definitely the plans for season 4 during this, pandemic, priorities change. So I feel like we're gonna start production and fundraiser at the end of 2020, because I feel like right now we all need to, like get together and recover from this. So definitely late 2020, we're gonna start with the fundraiser, but they can follow social media pages, the series on documentedtales.com, or Instagram, Twitter, Facebook on Documented Tales, and Instagram, my page is El Peor del Mundo.
Thank you, Armando.
Thank you, thank you.
All right, cuídense, and please feel free to reach out to us. I'll send you the link to this one and to the other one, Armando. Feel free to use them as you desire as well.
Thank you.
Right,
Bye.
cuídense.
Cuídense,
Bye.
bye.
Bye.